Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today. We are on episode 121. So glad to have you with us. I hope this April 14th is going well for everybody. So I'm really excited about our guest today. You'll meet him in a moment. His name's Kevin. He's one of the authors in our upcoming book, which I'll also share with you about. But a lot of people ask, like, what is One Day? What is it about? This platform is a space where we connect, inspire, and amplify communities through music, art, stories, and events. And no matter who you are, or where you're from, or what you've experienced, what you believe, what race or gender, or any label or identity you have, I would assert that you have something unique, something just uniquely you, that is a gift that can be a seed of love, of laughter, of joy, of possibility for others. And in this life, in my experience of myself, when I was a kid, I thought life was going to be this linear path, where you start, you're born, and you go, and you happily ever after. And in truth, as we all discover, life is a series of mountains and valleys. We have one plan, and then sometimes tragedy strikes, sometimes trauma hits, and sometimes we think we're at the top of the mountain, and then we fall flat in our face in the mud, and we're at the bottom of the valley. And you know it's easy to want to give up at the bottom of that valley. And what this stage and what this platform is about the wisdom that we discover on the other side of our trauma is a gift. And it is something that what we have uniquely, what have we been through, can be a bridge over somebody else's valley. What you have experienced in your life, somebody else needs to hear. You have something uniquely that can lift others up. And that's why we hold this platform, because every person, when we actually recognize, focus on and experience the divine expression of the universe in each of us, that's when we're in a new paradigm where we can hold space for ourselves, but also each other, and really listen for the gifts that we all uniquely have. And that's what this is about. It's a collaboration of the unique genius of us all. And whoever you are, whatever you're going through, however your last couple years have been, this new experience of the world, you know there's something to find at that bottom of that valley. And that's what we like to do, to highlight and to spotlight and show that journey. And whatever you're going through, not only can you overcome it and survive, but you can thrive and be that light and love for others. And today's guest is no exception. I'm really excited to have him. Please welcome to the stage, everybody, Kevin Hayes.
Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
Kevin.
Hey, Abram, how
Welcome.
are you?
Doing great. So glad we have you today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I loved your introduction because it really just melds into the whole thought process and ideas I've gotten since we started out signing up to, when was that, October, November or so, about doing a
Yeah.
chapter in the book, and it's really morphed into way more than I ever thought it would, by simply joining this platform and listening, to the encouragement and, all the wonderful thoughts that come on here. It really is magical. And I mean, it's a nice way to say, I think, it's because you're really doing still magic into people. So this platform is going to go places. I can see it even faster than maybe you want it to, but yeah. So, I mean, when I first started this back, right in the chapter, we had chatted a little bit, and I just really wanted to tell about my love story, which was just absolutely amazing, of finding the most wonderful partner in the world. And then, having her diagnosed with lung cancer, and she should have been dead in 3 months. She lived 3.5 years, and, that magical experience. And writing this chapter has really helped me understand that I have to take this even more, to the point where I've pretty almost ready to launch a coaching system for grief and managing grief, naturally, holistically, but just really because I've walked down those paths. It's so you go through as like trying to build a business, you try to figure out your best message and stuff like that. And I mean, I have a bunch of great mentors, but I just finished a wonderful class on how to do that. how to like really find your 5-minute elevator pitch, and it was just really amazing. So yeah, it's I'm taking this to where you say, you look in the mirror and you go, well, yeah, just because I've gone through it doesn't mean it was anything everybody else does. But maybe there is 1 or 2 or 20 or 30 people that need to hear it from a different perspective. So that's really where I can coach people through this process because I've walked this path before. I know it's worked for me. I've seen what worked for other people. I know it didn't work for me. So if I can help guide people and make this transition down this path a little easier for somebody, then, I think that's just maybe where I'm supposed to be headed. So yeah, it's
I love it. Well, I acknowledge your sense of contribution, and what you've been through, and what you discovered for yourself, and what's worked for you, but also what hasn't. That's wisdom
yeah,
for others, and how
yeah.
you're paying it forward.
Yeah, that I
It's a
think that's
beautiful
the
thing.
whole goal. Like I said, is and I'm really targeting towards men because we are the worst people in the world to like acknowledge, acknowledge the fact that yeah, we've gone through this loss, this trauma, and it doesn't even have to be in essence, your spouse dying or a family member dying. Trauma is trauma, whether it's that or whatever it is. But we're the worst. We'll bury every single thing that we possibly can, and
Right.
it's just not
And be
healthy for
prideful
us.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, just but in the meantime, it's destroying every other relationship we have. It's destroying us from the inside out, and we can't. And that's where people, I think, get stuck, is that they accept it, but they don't honor it, I guess is the way I could describe it. Because I look at grief and loss and trauma, something kind of like the bully in the school. You
Mhm.
know, until you confront that bully, they hold all the power. But once you confront the bully and acknowledge the bully, they lose all their control. You're now in control. So, and that's really how my program is coming up. It's about taking control for your own actions and say it's okay to grieve. Listen, it's been 3 years yesterday since my wife passed, and I still get choked up. I still cry. I still get that get the wellness and the thickness in my chest and my throat, but I acknowledge that maybe that's just the way the spirits communicate with us. I started actually recently thinking, hey, that's just the way she's giving me hugs from the inside versus, she can't give me hugs from the outside anymore, so she can do it that way. So I just give it that authentication and that I give it its honor. And I think that's really helped, especially even in the last 6 months, has helped me move even farther down the process. Because I don't think you ever stop grieving. Um, you know, Psychologists and people will study that say, oh, you grieve for a year and then you're over it. I mean, I don't know who they're grieving for, but I'm not. Maybe that's just not me. Um, but I think it's a lifelong process that you go through. I know people that have lost spouses 10, 12, 15 years ago, and they still, and they've even moved on into new relationships, but they still have moments where a song comes on, something comes on, and they start feeling these emotions again. And they look at it and go, what am I supposed to do? Honor it, accept it, acknowledge it, say it's okay, and then move on from there. And you would think that the new partners that they have they know what they've gone through before, then they're going to accept that, I would hope. So yeah, so this is really this whole process of starting writing the chapter, and it really has just morphed into something I never really thought of, but it's like almost like I have this desire and this, I hate to use the word calling, but that's kind of what it is, you know. So it's yeah, I get a little choked up even now talking about it, so that's all right though. But yeah, so this chapter is really, I think it's an amazing first step for me, and if it helps the movement, that's even better. So, and I really focus in the chapter about the acceptance and honoring it and taking the power away, and then faith. I mean, I think faith is such an important part, and I don't even mean a religious faith or a spiritual faith. you know, I have a group of people that I call my mental board of directors. There's 3 or 4 friends that I know that if I'm ever going down the rabbit hole, they're going to, if I forget to tie the rope around my waist, they have one end of the rope and they're going to dive in after me. And one of them is a retired general, and she wrote a book. It's called 24/7. The first person you must lead is yourself. And it just resonated. I've probably read it 10 times. And it's just a great thought process of everybody's a leader. So, and you're just leading yourself day by day. And I reference that when I talk about faith. And the first thing I have to have faith in every day that I can move through this process is faith in myself. I have to be willing to say, yes, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to fall, but that's okay. You pick yourself up. You know, every day is not going to be a good day, but if I can experience the best version of myself every day, I think I succeeded that day. So that's kind of how I project that, and it's kind of talked a little bit about that in the chapter. So it's really, it's an amazing process. You know, you don't want to wish this on anybody, but I've grown so much in the last number of years, not only when I was married to her and watched her be such a champion, and she was heroic in her fight, but taking the lessons I learned with and from her for the next 3 years, and then, you know, processing them and moving them forward to help others. You know, it just feels important to me. So, and if I didn't join in this and start writing this chapter, I'm not so sure I would be here right today talking to you. So thank you for giving me and all the other authors an opportunity, because there's going to be some amazing stories and revelations coming out of this. I really think so. So, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know where, how much farther you want to go down those rabbit holes.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, I'm so excited. You inspire me, Kevin, and I admire you. You have such a resoluteness and peace about you, and I want to just invite you to share, you know, a little bit about your story, about what happened in your journey to being here now, where you've processed, you know, you're processing your grief still for, you know, for losing your wife, and someone so amazing who's such a profound spirit that you've carried, you know, who she was in the world. And I want to just invite you to just share, you know, what was that like for you, and how, you know, because your quote that you shared was about how, you know, it's, you know, we have emotions and it's accepting them. You know, I'll actually pull that quote back up, but it's about like, we have emotions, but you don't have to let them control you. You can control your emotions. And I want to ask you, sharing, how did you come to that, you know, that discovery, you know, like,
I probably learned a lot of that before my wife even died. And I mean, I can give you like the 10,000 foot overview. I mean, we were both married before, you know, for whatever reason, you know, we both got divorced. We reconnected. She was a chiropractor and a great holistic healer. And, you know, we reconnected. And it's funny. I still laugh with my kids, because they're like, they're the ones that kind of set me up. They're like, listen, if you don't ask her out to dinner, we're going to ask her out and tell her where to meet you, which was great. And she was a great stepmom and more of a friend to them than even a stepmom. But, you know, we were dating and never thought we were just really happy. I mean, we had needed nothing else. We both were looking at each other going, yeah, we're never getting married again. Why? This is perfect. And then we found out she had a mass in her lung, and she had a PET scan and a CAT scans. And I said, listen, you know, we should get married for the simple fact that, you know, I have great health insurance, and this is going to be, you know, this is going to be a long journey if this turns out to be what it possibly could be. And we got a marriage license, and we were married 26 hours later. I mean, it was one of those things, we just threw it together. And the day after we got married, we found out it was stage 4 lung cancer. It was in her brain, it was in her spine, it was in her lungs, it was, you know, in her pelvis, it was everywhere. But she had, even and I would say to the last breath that she took, she was so grateful and such had a positive outlook towards, and even, cancer is not a fun disease to have. It's painful. It destroys you from the inside out. Yet she would always smile. And she goes, I can, and I learned from her in that she could have been miserable. She could have laid in bed and cried all day long, but no, she chose every day. She would get up and she would do everything that she possibly could. And if she happened to be in bed for 22 hours that day, she goes, you know what? I got up for an hour, so she would always have that positivity. And, it's very familiar to the, chiropractic and naturopathic lifestyles to have a mindset where, you can control certain, even though you don't think you can control them, you can't, emotions and feelings and thoughts. I was raised Roman Catholic, she was raised Roman Catholic, it's ingrained into your upbringing in many different cultures. It's not even just that religion. In many of them, this is the way you grieve. This is the way you do this. This is the way you do that. And, she didn't want to be that way. She goes, I never want anybody to mourn me. I want them to be thankful that I smiled at them once, that I was in their life. I want them to honor me and celebrate me. I never want anybody to mourn me. So I got a lot of that mindset from, I can control how these emotions affect me. But like I said earlier, I had to acknowledge that they were there, that there was the big purple elephant in the room was the grief and this, and I also look back and say, listen, if it hurts this bad, it must have been a pretty amazing love. Because it's kind of like, if it's really, really dark, the light always seems brighter. But if it's kind of hazy and gray out, it's just hazy and gray out. So I look at it that way. And I mean, I don't know if I kind of ramble sometimes, but I don't know if I answered your question but I choose to. I get up every day and I choose to, as much as I still miss her, I choose to be grateful. Before I even get out of bed, I'll take a few breaths and I'll say thank you. Grateful for everything. Grateful for my kids, grateful for my first wife, because I would never have been in the relationship with Carol Ann if we never got divorced. And listen, we probably talk more now than we did when we were married, but you know what? She's a great mom. So I have to be thankful for a lot of the things we weren't compatible anymore. And it's just, okay. But I have to be grateful for those things as much as grateful for the great things that have happened in my life. So I guess that's how I choose to every day. And it's not always easy. There are days that I still go, I don't want to get out of bed today. But you know what? You got to get out of bed today. And you make yourself and you do it. And you say, okay. And everything I complete is one battle that I won that day. Maybe it's simply I get up and I made the bed, but if you choose to do that, that's your first win of the day. As soon as you stand up, make the bed. You've accomplished something. You're moving in the right direction right off the bat. I think there was some admiral that wrote a book about that or something like that, that it's, you do that and it's one small step every day. It's one small step. And that's how I keep that attitude. Like I said, it's not always easy. I fall down still, but it's easier to get up now. One of the lines that I don't remember where I read it or who wrote it, but referenced it in the chapter was, grieving is like putting a really, really heavy stone in your pocket. The weight is always there. You just get used to the weight. And I've almost gotten to the point where I take it out every once in a while and I put it down and I step on it and go, oh, look, it's a pretty nice view from here. So maybe you just have to take those emotions and take those feelings and take those experiences and use them as a cornerstone to the next chapter or the next portion of your life.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Everything that you just shared, it's like, and you summed it up with, it's a choice. You choose to be grateful. You choose to get up and make your bed, even when you don't feel like it. And I think that's where it all starts. When we kind of back to what you're saying in the quote about emotions, it's like, we are humans. We are creatures that have emotions, whether we want to or not. We have emotions, and when you're having those experiences of emotions, it's like it sounds like you're like separate. You're separating yourself from your emotions. You see them, but you're not being them. You're not being controlled or dominated by that rock in your pocket. You know, it's something that you're channeling. You're making something beautiful out of something that, you know, is a feeling that comes to you.
Well, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I feel them, and I just, like you said, I don't. I try. I shouldn't say I don't, because there are times they do win. And sometimes you got to let them win. I mean, like I said, yesterday was our 3-year anniversary of when she died, and there was some times yesterday. I mean, she died at 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up from a sound sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. Just poof, I was awake, and I started crying, and I got really emotional, and I said, you know what, Kevin, let it out. I mean, it does nothing to bottle it up and try to subdue it. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what, they're here for a reason. My body needs to express this, so why not just let it out? I don't know how many people I know that have lost loved ones, and they're just, I'll be standing in public with them, and you can see it on their face. Once you've been through that, you can kind of go, oh, I recognize what's going to happen to them in a few minutes. And they're like, and they squash. I'm like, why? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you think anybody cares if you're walking down the street crying? In this day and age, nobody's going to look at you half the time, but just let it out. I mean, it's okay to cry. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to get angry. You just can't stay in that position for hours, days, weeks. You have to let it process and then say, okay, like I said, you honor it, you acknowledge it. You now control it. It doesn't control you. So, I mean, and it's worked so far for me. And, I'm moving forward every day. Like I said, some days the best version of myself isn't a very pretty version, but if it's the best that I can do that day, I kind of won that day. I look at it that way,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's just like the courage that it takes to see that, just in society, the whole stereotype of men, like men don't cry and men don't, it's like we're almost trained, collectively. This is not obviously not an absolute, but culture will train men to not, to hide their feelings, to, that's not the manly thing to do. That's not we're told to kind of bottle it in.
mm-hmm.
And you've done the opposite, and it's interesting to me because the irony in pretending to be strong and trying to like we don't want people or the world to see us as weak, so we'll put on this mask of trying to be strong or to convince people we're being strong,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, there's extremes, every humans do this in general, but I mean anyone from just someone who's bottling their emotions to all the way to like Vladimir Putin. There's like this culture of we need to have show ourselves as strong and not have emotions, and you could have gone the other direction and justified being angry, justified being you could have gone the other path of, rather than gratitude, just resentment. And like, how did what do you say to people that are dealing or have dealt with loss or still dealing with loss? How do they and how do I choose, like if someone asks like how do I choose to be that way when I'm still so angry, I'm still so resentful, or I don't know how to process this?
Well, everybody's going to respond to that differently, but I think I would almost have to ask them what are they really angry at? Are they angry because their loved one is not here, or are they angry that why are they angry? Are they angry because they're alone? Well, being alone is also a choice. You can, I mean, you have to have some friends, and you have to have some people that you can interact with, that if they can't totally 100% relate to your experience, they can at least show an understanding towards it. But I really ask, what are you angry? I mean, I could be angry. I could be angry that she's not here anymore, but I can also look at it and go, she's completely 100% cured of cancer. She's not in pain anymore. She's even more of a powerful spirit now than when she was walking on the planet. I mean, in our human form, we're limited to this circle of, now she's like busting the universe apart, so and maybe that's me, and it wasn't just her. I mean, my wife died a year later, my mother died a year later, my nephew died in the last 3 years. So it's like, and they all had issues that they were dealing with, but I personally look at it and go, they're better. They are 100% cured of everything that was wrong, that wasn't working right in their body. And that's where I have to go back to the gratitude side of it. I saw the last 6 months of what the medications were doing to her. And I just could look at her and go, it's not fair. We as humans, we, so bad as it sounds, we treat our pets better about when they get sick than we do our loved ones that are human. So it's, it's the suffering that we watch them go through, which then compounds onto us. And maybe that's what they're angry about. Someone is that, they didn't have the ability to take the pain away. And maybe it's not anger. Maybe it's the guilt that they feel of, I couldn't do anything more for my loved one, however they died, or whatever trauma they suffered. It could be as simple as, it doesn't have to be a death. It could be, I didn't help out this person as much as I should have. Well, why not? Maybe that's what you're angry at. Are you? I don't think people are necessarily angry that the others have died. I think they're angry with the way they personally have handled the situation, and they just don't know how to. We haven't really been given the greatest skill set to accept a lot of these things. Like I said, especially men, we're taught, something happens, you plow through it for, okay, maybe you take a week off and then you're right back at work, and are you really functioning at your 100% of your capacity then? I don't necessarily think so. So, but again, like we both have acknowledged, is it's how we were, it's ingrained into our civilization anymore. So yeah.
Your level of gratitude is just inspiring.
I have to be. Although, like I said, I could go down that rabbit hole of being negative, but that serves nothing towards the purpose. And she would be really, I don't even like to use the word angry. She'd be disappointed if I went down that road, which is even worse than having her being angry at me. She would be like, no, I don't want you to be that way. I want you to thrive and live and be a productive human being. I don't want you sitting like locked in the house all day doing absolutely nothing, staring at my pictures that's not who she is or was, really still is. Cause I know she rabbit punches me in the back of the head every once in a while just to make sure that I'm still paying attention, And like I said, it's like, I get those welled up emotions and when it just popped into my head, like probably 2 days ago, I said, maybe that's just the way that our loved ones are giving us hugs from the inside out, versus, they're spirits. They can't really physically give us a hug, but they can remind us by, squeezing our heart a little bit or popping that memory or that sign or whatever, whatever you think that they're doing. Maybe that's the way they communicate with us and let us know that, they're fine. We're the ones that are screwed up. They're perfectly fine where they are.
It's beautiful that you can see, you can experience, that peace, and how her, how just like what you were saying, it's so powerful. Like, I'll even push back, say you never have to, but you choose to honor her and to not, to not stew in, this anger at the world, anger at God, anger at the universe, and that there's ultimately, it's like, it's your choice to honor her, and that's the impact she's continuing to have on you, but also the world, because of her through you. And it's so beautiful to see what you manifested out of so much pain, and it's and how you continue to hold it in front of you and everywhere you go, and how you're a part of this movement in this book, sharing your story, lifting others up who are dealing with something, and it's so inspiring, the level of gratitude that you choose to bring to this world and to yourself every day.
It's the gratitude almost has been my survival mechanism, really, because, like I said, there are still days, and I'm sure there will be many more in my life where I wake up and I'm not the happiest person in the world, but I have to be thankful for everything, good, bad, and whatever. I mean, because everything's a lesson. If you can, everything, and sometimes you don't want to hear that lesson, but it's part of us still learning. So yeah, I choose to, and like I said, sometimes it's a harder choice on certain days than others, but it comes easier. It does become easier. I talked to my sister who lost her nephew a year ago, and she's still, I didn't cry as much today. I'm like, don't hide the crying. She goes, well, I don't want to see. No, people will understand. They'll understand. Just think of all the good stuff that happened in his life with you, with him, with everything, and he wouldn't want you to be like this. Whatever issues he was dealing with, he dealt with them. And they don't take them with them. That's the nice part. They leave them here with their physical body. They don't take them with them on the other side. They're up there having martinis, smoking cigars, and having like Friday night socials every day. So they're living a perfect, blissful existence there. So it's it's us as humans that I don't want to. We've kind of screwed this up a little bit on how we do this, but it's however many years of history and tradition and whatever you want to call it, that we have to change that. I think we really do, and it's a slow movement, and I think men in general are getting slowly but better at accepting and honoring their emotions than they did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Absolutely.
Just the general awareness of trying to improve mental health in this world, that alone it's better. They're still using like theories from, the 30s, but okay, they'll catch up eventually.
Yeah. Well, I see who you're being is that guiding light. Like you are, like you were talking about, you briefly mentioned leadership, but I hear like just who you're being and sharing your story and sharing, what how you've shifted this paradigm to be such a person of contribution for others and service. And it's just like that gratitude that you have it's contagious. Telling people to be great, it's like, hey, you should be grateful. Hey, you should be grateful. You should be grateful. That's not the same thing as when you're sharing about your journey. It's like, it gives me the chills because you're not just saying it, you're being that. And it's like, and how you emanate, and it's contagious with your gratitude. It's just like it's astounding. And actually I have a question. Matthew, our co-host, is still he's stuck at the insurance office, but he had a question. We had a couple questions from Matthew that I was gonna segue here too. But it says, what are some of the things that are only possible because of the journey with her and her cancer for you?
Read that one more time.
What are some of the things that are only possible because of the journey with her and her cancer?
What are some of the things that are only possible because,
like, what do you see? And I think you've shared some of it, but just like with the gratitude that you have.
I don't think there's anything that's not possible because of this, honestly. I mean, obviously we'd love to see a cure for cancer. We'd love so nobody has to go through this ever again. I don't think that's, maybe that is something that's going to happen in our lifetime, maybe not. But I think when you change that mindset and you embrace, how do I want to say? I wish more people had got to know her, because I've described her a couple of times. If she walked into a room, she changed the air in the room just by walking in it. That's the kind of energy Carol Ann, and I still think has. I think she's still, I don't think I'd be able to sit here and have this conversation with you if I wasn't channeling somehow her and knowing what she would want for me. Um, but I think when you get to the point where you can get past the emotion of a trauma, I think that's when you start learning from it. I think, yeah, everybody, I did it, the first however many weeks, months or whatever, you go down that rabbit hole of, I use that term, but you go down that path of, because everybody, the first couple months, everybody's around. Your friends fly in, your family comes in, and they're all there. So you kind of get drawn into that traditional mourning, grieving type of mindset. And it was probably a couple months after that, that it was really like, here I am alone in our condo, which, for the last 12 weeks, there was at least 10 people there every single day. And now I'm like, okay, I can't sit like this. I have to. And that's when I really started thinking about the process of, this is not what she wants from me. I'm not going to sit here and stare out the picture window at the water. I have to get myself up and moving. Okay, what are my steps that I need to do? All right, I have to get up every day, set my alarm, get up every day, make my bed. Okay, be thankful. Be thankful for what? Be thankful for her. Yes, I miss her, but there's a part of you that's, when it gets to that point in a terminal disease, there's a gratitude that they have finally passed, because it's just not fair to them in their human form to be in that much pain and discomfort and so on. But now where I am, I don't think I think we could take this type of mindset or whatever. I think we could take it anywhere. I don't know if I answered his question really, but
well, yeah, well,
I don't know if there's a specific thing that I can say is, we could do this,
Well, I think you're kind of saying it and being it in what you're sharing, because like this whole process of what you've, in that journey, and who that's allowing you to be now for others, and who she was and who she was and is a gift for you and for the world, because you're carrying that. And I guess another way of asking his question is, what are some of the things that journey has enabled?
Well, what is it for me personally? Oh, wow. What is it? I mean, it's allowed me to be here. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I never would have, I probably, if I didn't have this education process that I've gone down the road of, I wouldn't have, I don't know whether I would have wrote wrote the chapter. I don't think I would be here right now. I would probably be still doing some of the things I'm doing, but I don't think I would have taken it up to this next level of, all right, you know what? I have a message here that I should share. I don't think I would have been there. I don't know whether I would have, without going through what I've gone through and teaching myself and learning from her and learning from other people. I don't know whether I would have the strength and courage, or maybe that's the way to say it, to be here, like having this conversation. I mean, I could have had it with friends around a cocktail or something like that, or here or there, but I never would have, I don't think I'd ever be on a platform like this. And who knows where it goes from here, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can, I don't, and I have, like I said, I have that mental board of directors I have, and there's a few of them that are just like, Kevin, you got to tell this story. You got to tell this story. You got to tell this story. You have to start this coaching. There's so many people that need it. Like I said earlier, I was in this training class, which I don't know whether you come in contact with people that really need to like figure out their elevator pitch and the way to just get their short message. But I could share, I mean, I don't want to put plugs out, but there's a lady out here, her name's Mary Maloney, that she has a company called Revealing Geniuses. It is absolutely amazing, in like a 7-day, 1 hour a day program where you can literally say, oh, I know my niches. I know what I want to do. And it's just amazing. And I got connected to her through one of my mental board of directors. And it's just, but these are the people that I would also encourage. And I'm not talking 30 people. There's 3 or 4 people that it doesn't matter what time of day. If I pick up the phone and send them a text or I call them, I know they're going to answer it. And if they don't, within 5 minutes or calling back, I'll go, okay, are you okay? And you need to have that kind of relationship with some people that, when I know that I'm not having a good day, I can pick up the phone and the other end, I'll be like, okay, stop being an idiot. You got this. Go back to what we've all talked about and how we go through this process. And you need that. And whether it's a therapist you go to, a coach you go to, or those solid friends, which, when something like a loss happens, there's a lot of, you get a lot of your friends. Oh, if you need anything, call. If you need anything, call. If you need anything, call. And I love that, the people they want to show you that attention and all that. Those aren't the friends you necessarily need walking through this process. You need the friends that are like at 3:00 in the morning. I just felt that I should call you and see if you're okay. And that's that group of people that, after the 12 weeks of all the fanfare is done, they're the ones that are still there, once a week, once or whatever, going, hey, just saying hi, or, I don't feel so great today. And they send you some stupid like meme or emoji on your phone that makes you laugh. But those are the people you need that you need in your life to help. And I mean, you need them besides going through a trauma or a loss. You need that 2, 3, 4. And I'm sure if you close your eyes for a minute, you can count 3 or 4 people, right now, if something happened, you could pick up the phone. And those are the people that are going to be there no matter what. And they may be on the other side of the world. But if you picked up the phone and said, hey, I'm just having, what? They're there for you,
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily your drinking buddies or the people you're going out to, whatever. It's that core. They have, they have the same initial, cemented values that you have, and they understand. And it doesn't matter what you say to them. They're never going to judge you. They're just going to be like, okay, I know you're feeling that. Let's walk down that, take a few steps feeling that. And before you know it, it's those things are gone. So
yeah, that's beautiful, and like it's so invaluable to it's like to have that kind of support system, or to have people that honor your highest self, no matter what no matter what's coming out of your mouth, they're honoring who who you truly are.
There's been some frank phone calls and they're like, would you just stop?
Yeah.
I've had them where like, stop, you're whining like a little girl. I'm like, I'm like, oh, thank you. But they're like, no, stop.
Yeah. Well, it's what it takes is those people to have who tell you, they don't let you dishonor yourself. They see you how big. They don't shrink to your smallness when you're feeling bad. They hold you up to your greatness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those are beautiful partnerships built there. And one thing I heard in what you were just sharing is, what the journey has enabled is for you to be courageous for others. And, and the gift that, Carol Ann has been and has given you in the world, you are now giving the world. And it's like through osmosis and in your whole journey and with her, and now without her, you are giving that gift that, you both, that you created together, and you're nurturing it. And it's like, and that's why, that's what this platform is about planting those seeds. But as a community, when we share and we can honor each other's dreams and gifts that we have, when we, as a community, we water and give sun to those gifts. And I hear that in who you're being is you're being courageous for others. And it's just like, and I acknowledge you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes it's a little easier to be courageous for others than it is for yourself. So, it's a two. Part of it is that if I'm doing it for them, I'm also doing it for myself. And this is just me taking a lot of the things that I still feel that I honor, and but it's just taking those things and saying, you know what, I feel them. I can pretty much guarantee that anybody else that's gone through this is feeling them. And if I can help one person, that would be just amazing to say, okay, yeah, you helped me today. I saw the best version of myself today. And tomorrow it may be different, Yesterday is not today. So you know what? And don't judge yourself because today is a little bit different than yesterday. You know,
Mhm.
you still did the best you could, you know,
Yeah.
and you're not going to win every game. You're not going to score every shot, you take. You know, you're going to bounce it off the rim. You're going to foul the ball, whatever sports analogy you want to use. But
Yeah.
you know what? As long as you keep throwing the ball at the hoop, you keep swinging the bat, swinging at the golf ball, like I said, whatever it is, you know, you just keep swinging. And before you know it, you start, it's like I practice this every day because you're never going to get it 1,000% right. So you just got to keep
Mhm.
practicing it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's,
it's so powerful, and kind of what you're sharing is reminds me of, like, something that I've discovered in my journey, and I'm continuing to discover is, life doesn't happen up in here as much as my brain and thoughts would have me believe. It exists out in the world, and
Mhm.
and it's like something, like in saying you are being courageous for others. It's like we get to be courageous for others rather than fearful for ourselves. And it's usually where we're stopped, where there's resistance, where we fall into our own hole of our own identity, and what comes with you know not recognizing and honoring our highest self. That's when we're fearful for ourselves, and how we're afraid. It's like it's out of fear, but it's like, but again, the world exists out here, and no matter
Mhm.
what mind patterns or thoughts are happening, you get to choose. And the
Right.
fact that you continue to choose to get up, to just share your gift, but also share Carol Ann's gift, is just like it's a gift that keeps on giving to me, to everyone you come across, and to the world. And when you share your story,
Yeah. Well, thank
it's
you. You know,
really
you just
important.
reminded me of something when you were talking about how, all this stuff that happens out in the world. And it was one of Carol Ann's favorite sayings is that, you can't control what's happening out in the world, but you can respond to it or react to it, which are two
Mm,
totally different ways of dealing with something.
totally.
So, let's respond to it versus react to it. Take a deep
Absolutely.
breath. Think about, how you're going to work through this process versus just reacting, because generally we react with, our gut or whatever. And a lot of times it's right, but is it necessarily the course of action that you really need to? So, even when like I said, one of these emotions pops up or something like that, okay, I could react to the emotion and just smash it back to wherever it's coming from, or I can honor it and respond to it and respond to it. And then, like I said, once you respond to it, you take the control and the power. You don't
Mhm.
give it to the emotion or to whatever event is happening at that point in time. So,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the it's very you transmute and you transcend and you transform that with gratitude. And that's what I hear in everything. And it sounds like in every breath you take, you are coming from gratitude. And I think that's
it's been
beautiful wisdom.
it doesn't just happen like with this now. It's a lot of work. I mean, I'm just it's a conscious effort. I mean,
Right.
to say, there are so many small little things that just get under your skin throughout the day, and you got to go, okay, I could really just turn into a complete idiot here and go off on whoever and do this or do that, or I could just take a deep breath and go, in 20 minutes, is this going to really matter? No. Okay. Let's just be grateful that
Mhm.
I moved past this. Hopefully they move past it, or whatever the situation. So
Yeah.
and I think once I finally learned and accepted the mindset, it just makes every day a little bit easier, a little bit calmer. Um, and like we said, there's going to things that are going to pop up, but you can't let them rule you. You have to rule or control them.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
if you
that's powerful.
Yeah, and if you can do that 75% of the time throughout the day, I think that's a win.
Totally.
I'm not looking for 100%. I'm like saying, listen, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to respond differently or react differently.
Yeah.
But if I look at the end of the day, here were 10 important things and 7 of them I said, you know what? This is how I should do this. That to me is a winning average. So let's take that and be thankful, because
Yeah.
you are going to there are going to be the things that you just go, oh, wow. I don't even have the energy to like try to even think about how to deal with that. And sometimes that's the best thing to say is, no, I'm not going to deal with that right now. If it comes back up later, fine. But, sometimes you just have to say, I don't have the bandwidth today. And that's hard sometimes. That's harder than actually dealing with something. It's just, I'm not ready today.
It really is. And, I'm reminded of a guest we had months ago, and I don't remember her name. It's not coming to me right now, but she basically corrected us and saying gratitude is not there's a saying, gratitude is the attitude. And she was saying gratitude is not an attitude. It's actually a practice.
It is.
And that's what I hear what you're saying. It's like but you choose to practice it,
Yes.
whether or not you feel like it, whether you wake up feeling, sick or tired. It's like, I'm not going to be, it's like you practice it, and it's a choice right now and right now and right now. And it's like, we have this choice in every moment of our life and every breath we take to have that, and to be that, to be the love we want to see in the world, to practice, to really, be grateful for the little things is a practice.
Yeah. And you get to I reference like the board of director, a friend of mine who wrote the book about leadership. It's like, I have to look at myself in the mirror every day, as scary as that is. And I have to be able to say, you know what, I did the best I could. And if there's times that I look at myself and I go, you could have done better. Okay. That was it. I made choices today. Tomorrow I would maybe make different choices. So if I can look myself in the mirror every day and go, you should be proud of who you were today. Or there's days I look in the mirror and go, Carol Ann would be really proud of you today. That just, it just, it's okay to pat yourself on the back, as much as we really hate to do it. Or, some people love to do it more than others, but it's just, you just got to look at yourself and go, yeah, today was okay. Today was okay. Tomorrow may be better, or it's not going to be better or worse. It's just going to be different. So yeah, and that's where I get it from, is I look at myself, and I've gotten to the point where, and it's probably been 10 years. It's finally probably the most I actually like myself in 10 years, because I'm at the point where I can look at myself and go, you are not the greatest person today, but tomorrow you're going to be better at it.
Yeah.
And go there. So
yeah, it's a powerful practice to be able to be complete.
It is a practice. It is 100% a work. It's work to do it every day. I'm not, there are some people, maybe it's easier for, and maybe it looks easier. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, is to get, to just be grateful as much as you possibly can. There's a lot of that in you too. So don't sell yourself short.
Oh, I appreciate that. Kevin, I'm going to take a real quick, I'm going to just check in with the audience, and then we'll ask you one or two more questions.
Okay.
But real quick, I just wanted to say hello and check in with all of you. Thank you for tuning in with us. And I'll say shout out hi to Krista, another one of the authors in our book. So hi, Krista. But I want to invite you who are watching with us to participate and be a part of this movement, and to share your story and your gift on the stage. And why we hold this space is, like I said when we start off, it's like you have something unique that you've been through and that you've experienced and overcome that somebody else needs to hear. You have something uniquely that, through all the, you had heartache, you had pain, you had fear, you had suffering. Through all of that, not only did you make it to the other side, you came out stronger. You came out wiser, with something beautiful to share. And, on the other side of all those fears and trials, tribulations and traumas, are the most beautiful things in our life, if we can have the courage to actually look and to actually see. And just like Kevin was sharing. So I want to invite you to be on the stage. And that's why we're here. It's One Day's mission is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. We do that one story, one song, one share at a time. I'm gonna bring it back to our conversation with Kevin. I have another question. This is more a general one, kind of zooming out here, because I want to hear your experience. But how do you define grief, and what is it to you, Kevin?
Define grief. Wow. I don't know whether I could answer that question in that, because I think grief is, I mean, you could take the, the dictionary version, but I don't think that really encompasses, it's such a personal thing. Um yes, it's pain, it's, yeah, there's anger, there's, I mean, pick an emotion that you could associate with it, but it is such an individualistic feeling. And you're going to grieve differently for different people in your life. I didn't grieve, this is going to sound really bad, but I didn't grieve for my mother as much as I grieved for Carol Ann, mostly because my mother, I mean, she was elderly, she was, had chronic illnesses, and it was a blessing. I still look at her passing as a blessing, and to a degree I even look at Carol Ann's passing at that point as a blessing for us. But I don't know whether I could really put an absolute definition on grief. For me personally, yeah, I mean, I had the anger, I had the sleeplessness, I had, the complete feeling of numbness throughout my entire body, that, you get short of breath, all the physical manifestations. Um, but yeah, it's like I said, I think it's such an individualistic and personal process that it's my mother-in-law, at 95 years old, I mean, she lost her husband and then lost her daughter. I don't know how anybody survives losing a child. I don't care how old you are. So she chooses to grieve differently than I do. So for me to say I'm grieving, I can't say my grief is right and her grief is wrong. It's how I choose to grieve and how she chooses to grieve. So that's why I think I'm not so sure I could put a real definition on what I think grief is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I really, you know, I mean, I agree that it is a unique experience. Loss, you know, usually never comes when we expect it or how we expect it. And you know, to have sometimes we get to say goodbye and sometimes we don't, and sometimes it's expected and sometimes it's extremely unexpected, and and I think everyone's journey of that, like when we and I see, oh, there's a this is I actually forgot what it's from. There's a beautiful definition of grief. I think it's from like a Marvel, one of the Marvel TV shows. It's strangely a beautiful, I forget the exact quote, but it's like, what is grief other than love? What is it? Love. This is gonna come to me.
I know what you're talking about. It's something like, grief is just love with nowhere to go.
Well,
Something
yeah.
like
What is
that.
grief if not love persevering?
Yeah,
That's the quote.
exactly. And yeah, I mean, and I don't think, I mean, it was not a surprise that Carol Ann was going to pass. It was just when. And 3 or 4 months after she died, one of our friends was killed in a car accident. And, his girlfriend was obviously devastated and all. And, she goes, I never got to say goodbye. And people look at it and go, it's so much easier to grieve somebody when, it's after a terminal illness. And I'm like, I don't know where you got that from,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. I mean, I, I would have thought I was prepared. I had no clue what was going to, when her body left with the funeral people, it's like, I had no idea. I thought I was prepared. I had no clue what I was going to do. No idea. I mean, yeah, we had the opportunity to discuss how she wanted the process, but other than that, you know, the feelings were still there. It doesn't matter whether I knew or I didn't know it was coming. The emotions and all that, they were still there. So it's, yeah, I don't know how. So yeah, so to answer that, I don't think I can answer what I would define grief as. I really,
Yeah. Well, I really hear. I mean, there's no preparing for grief, and I don't think there's
mm-mm.
as much. I mean, it's just like everything in life, and this is you know I'll turn to this analogy that I use often, but just kind of what you're saying is like, you know, life well, there's a John Lennon quote. I think it's John Lennon. It's, life is what happens between your plans. And it's like we
Mhm.
could think we're prepared and have this is what day one of grief, this is what I'm gonna do day two. And it's like life never works that way. It's never what we plan. It's always the most thing we least expect. Something happens, there's an accident, there's a tragedy, someone gets pregnant or someone dies or something. And it's like we have a goal and like this is where I'm headed down this path. Then something happens and all of a sudden a new door opens that we didn't even see. And it's like in our life, the only thing in being prepared in life is being prepared with being unprepared and being present and being able to take
Right.
whatever God, the universe, circumstances put in our space, how we respond when we are present to what is and to what happens and to who we're being in the face. And I've said this example a lot, like when it's most important to be courageous is when we're afraid. When it's most
Mhm.
important to be forgiving is when we're angry. The most important, and it's like it's a lot easier when you're going downhill on your bike and it's like, yeah, I'm courageous, I'm easy, everything's going easy. And like it's when it counts when it's the most difficult. And it's like who we choose and how we choose to respond as in the face of the traumas that we face. And it's one
Mhm.
analogy that I've used a lot, and I want to give you the final words before we close here. But you know life is something that I actually learned. We shared it at the pre-launch event end of last year, but something I learned from my mom, a wisdom that I was kind of reminded of and really got not too long ago, that like when it comes to life is like a garden, just that analogy. But I remember I was talking to my mom about asking her. She has an amazing gardener. She's always been the most beautiful house in the neighborhood. And if you're watching, Mom, I'm not just saying that. It's a beautiful. She's a beautiful garden. But I remember asking her about weeds in her garden. Like, what do you do with weeds? How do you deal with the weeds? And she said to me, "Well, all a weed is a flower that we don't think is pretty. It's just like it's a subjective thing. Like what we consider
Wow.
weed is just like a weed. It's like, and I feel like if our life and our experience of life is like a garden, whatever we water, whether it's from fear or from love, is what grows. And
Mhm.
and as we are gardeners of our own life, we get to display our garden how we want to. And something this the seemingly ugly weed or scar or terrible experience can pop up out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, it's terrible, and get it away, pluck that weed, and more weeds will come up. But it's like it's when we can actually take the most painful, ugly things that happen, or the scariest, ugliest looking weeds of our lives, and to actually present it in a way that's beautiful. And it's like, yeah, I used to think that was really ugly. It was a really
Yeah.
terrible, ugly weed. And then I was grateful for all the things that weed that it gave me, that I actually now I hold it in my garden in the front row,
Mhm.
because now it's a beautiful flower because I say
Right.
so.
Right. Well, it's interesting that in medicine, obviously all medicines came from plants, but more medicines came from what we would consider weeds than what we would consider flowers.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then there's what is that one of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Why don't you water your own grass? You know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so it's, it's like, so, but yeah, I mean, that sounds, yeah, I mean, you just, it's all perspective. You're right. And so
Hmm.
you're right. Some of the weeds out there are some of the most beautiful things that we've ever seen in our life. If we would just take the minute to, to really appreciate them.
Yeah.
You know?
What is it? I think it's is it dandelions, or one of the other regular, things
Yeah,
that are considered weeds, are actually one of the most nutritious,
they
you
are.
know,
Yeah, they
and
are.
it's
It's the problem is everybody sprays so much chemicals on the grass. You can't like make tea out of them and stuff like that anyway. So
well, I mean, we could connect that analogy in every way,
oh
because that's
yeah, yeah,
that's a whole other story, is
yeah.
the pesticides and poisoning ourselves, and
Oh,
that's a whole that's a whole
that's
separate episode.
that's a week-long podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You know.
that's a whole series.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Kevin, it's such an honor to have you share with us and to be a part of this movement, and again, to be who you are in the world is just inspiring. And it just you sharing your story inspires me, but it gives others so much peace for what they're dealing with. Like the courage that you've chosen to take in the face of, of loss is just inspiring. And it just how you're carrying Carol Ann's, who she was for you, but also who she still is. And you're sharing that gift with everybody. I've never met her, but just her through you and who you're being is just such an inspiration. And it's just so, the world is so lucky to have you sharing and being you.
Well, thank you very much. And this, like I said, thank you for this platform. I mean, it just so resonates with how I want to get my and her story out. It really does. And it's just been an honor sitting here, chatting with you and whoever else is on the podcast. I'm from this end, we can't see how many people are on there with us. So it's I don't know if you didn't know that or not, but it's it's just an honor to be able to sit here and talk and have a conversation, because that's really just a favorite way for me to discuss and talk about this, is just have a conversation, and things that pop into your head when you're just talking like this that you don't expect to come out and talk about, but boom, there we are. And like you had said earlier when we were getting ready, I said, this is going to be organic, and I'm just going to speak from my heart and tell my story. I mean, other than that, what else do I need to do, I guess. So,
yeah. Well,
but thank you very much for having me, and sorry, Matt couldn't join us, but insurance is important.
It's true. I don't know what kind of insurance, but it is important, and he'll be with us next time. We're gonna have you back, and we'll talk some more. But just thank you again, okay, Kevin, just for
thank you
for sharing your story and just for being who you are. It's just such an honor and a privilege to have you and to have you working with us in this movement.
Thank you again.
I'm going to take another quick opportunity here to check back in and just say thank you to everyone joining us. And this one day, our vision here is humanity's rising in a connected world, with each person's unique gifts and genius and contributions are being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's what this is about. It's every story we share, every seed we plant, we get to choose to water it, and we get to choose to create new, beautiful possibilities that we never even knew we could have, because we're starting from the gifts that we all uniquely have. And it's just such an honor to have Kevin with us. And I want to real quick also mention the book that we're doing. Kevin is obviously an author in this book, but I want to invite you who are watching, if you have a story that the world needs to hear, if you have, this book, the intention is to light up the world with the stories of people like Kevin, stories people need to hear, that we are empowered, to overcome the pain and the trauma and the suffering of our lives, and to channel and to transcend that for others. And that's what this is about. So I want to invite you, if you feel called or somebody who has a story that the world needs to hear, please join us. This movement is for you and me, and for all the unique gifts that we can create together when we are in this place, and we recognize and discover that who you are is a gift. And I just an honor to be here with you, Kevin. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we're definitely going to have you back. But everybody, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And as always, be safe, be well, and one day is today, everybody. Peace.